Hey everybody, I'm Nightsend. I'm here with Froskurinn, the new assistant coach for our Challenger Series EU team. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. It's a wordy title.
That's all right. So you've done a lot of stuff in uh, esports, in League esports for a while. You were doing incoming aggression. Been on the support staff for a couple teams. Why don't you give us a quick summary of your history in esports?
So I've been working, I don't know, semi-professionally, professionally in esports for a year. I started out as a streamer doing commentary on my viewer streams. So would add me and I'd like give them, I guess that you would call it coaching, but at the time I was just calling it commentary. I thought I'd be really good as a caster, so I applied to the ESL, the North American branch. I got picked up by ESL, and there I worked on things like Go for LoL and EPS, which is their challenger circuit. From there, I got picked up by Games in Asia, and I transitioned into the big thing that most people know me for, which is my LPL casting. We took the Games in Asia stream, which at the time it was owned by Games in Asia and Gosu Gamers, from like 8 viewers to 50,000 over the course of the LPL split. It was then partnered with Twitch and things like that. Of course, now Riot took over the broadcast. Worked in tandem on a couple of projects with them, but now just transitioning more into content creation and working alongside other groups, including professional teams like Dignitas.
So what led to the transition from so you started as a coach and then you kind of moved into casting and now you've moved back into coaching or analyst role. How did that transition happen? Was it a conscious decision or just going with whatever was open at the time?
Well, at the time when I first started, I would just add like everyone who wanted to be a part of it because I was just trying to get practice for it. And so various ELOs, like everything from bronze to diamond, and so many different champions, so many different lanes. So I started creating this huge library. Because what I would do is I would give live commentary for entertainment to the stream, and then I would cut the video and I'd send it to the viewers themselves so they could then look back over their play and the things that I was talking about. So I created this catalog almost of every single different champion matchup and every single role. So what I specialize is how champions specifically match up. And just like really bizarre ones, just because I had like hundreds upon hundreds of videos of this. And then I thought, hey, I might be decent as a caster. I had no casting experience, like the technique, the cadence, all of that thing. Like I had never studied it. I just went and tried out for the ESL, but they were impressed with my just basic knowledge to carry a color cast. Because obviously there's two different types of casters. There's the play-by-play like Rivington, and then there's the color caster like Jat. And so from when I worked in ESL, it's when I really started to get my casting training and experience kind of through working with their mentors. They have like a mentor program and things like that. But that was like the first transition. And then when I was established, it was mostly people approaching me, be like, hey, I think what you say sometimes is pretty smart, sometimes maybe not so much, and offered me the coaching position.
All right, I think most people probably know you for your content in the Chinese scene. What draws you to the LPL so much, and what makes you enjoy and follow the team so much there?
Well, in my circle of friends, even before I was casting the Chinese scene, they were all involved in the Chinese scene. So it was kind of by association that I really got involved with it. My favorite team of all time, other than Dignitas, of course, is it was Moscow 5. And if you think about how Moscow 5 played, it was see hero, kill hero, that really raw, aggressive style. And I always call it the gateway drug to Chinese League of Legends. Because if you think about Chinese League of Legends, like what it was stereotypically known for, it was that raw aggression in your face, track you down, kill you, and then trade objectives. So when I saw the Chinese finally play, I was like, yes, this is what I want. I want the blood, the gore, and the guts.
So do you think that affects your how you coach? Do you think you encourage more aggressive plays or matchups or team comps or anything just because that's what you like? Or do you think you're a little bit more moderated when it comes to coaching?
I definitely have a philosophy about how I think the game should be played. And I don't try to force this on the players because I think it's super important not to try to fit them into a box that you should amplify their own natural skill set and what they're good at. But my core philosophy is I think that you should play so fast and so aggressive that you force the other team to respond to you and you force the other team to make mistakes. And then you efficiently punish those mistakes to the fullest extent. That's if I could get the Dig EU team to play like that, I would, but sometimes it's just not in the caliber of player you have. It's really important that I'll I'll probably get into that later, but that's the basic.
So your philosophy on coaching and the way the game should be played has evolved from that love of the LPL.
Definitely. The LPL, people look at it and they think, oh, what are they doing? This is so awful. They're just fighting. They're fighting for no reason. What's the purpose? The only thing you need to know about the LPL is that they will always trade. If they think that they can get a better objective off of something, they will fight you and they will, like 50-50, it's looking for mechanical outplay, like a brute force win, which they're very talented mechanical players. So do they fight for no reason? It can appear like that. But to them, it's because they think if we win here, we can trade for something better than what we already have.
All right. So moving from China towards where you'll be coaching in the EU Challenger scene, what do you think of the state of the EU Challenger scene right now? We saw Origin move on. We've seen the Challenger scene kind of expanding as a professional circuit. Before it was kind of just feeding into the LCS, but now teams are it's becoming more publicized by Riot. So what do you think of just sort of the general state of it, both the players and the state in terms of how Riot's publicizing it and its position as a pro league?
Well, obviously, the more involvement that organizations, not just like Riot, doing a great job with their Coke League, but League One, like other third-party organizations getting involved and doing more tournaments, just adds to the strength and the validity of the challenger scene, not just in Europe, but also in North America. Because if these players and these teams have more platforms to practice on, obviously, it's just going to increase the strength of the region as a whole. I'm a firm believer that to grow talent domestically, you have to start at the bottom up. And so our challenger players do matter, especially in Europe, because so many European players are getting transferred to North America. I don't think there's any dispute that Europe has a ton of talent that's untapped. I think there is an issue of consolidating a lot of Europe's talent on one roster just due to kind of the size and the cultural lines and the language barriers, between, because you think about North America, everyone's going to primarily speak English. They're going to come from, similar cultural backgrounds. But in Europe, you're dealing with so many different countries that it's almost very difficult. There's a lot more barriers and loops you have to jump over to make sure that you can get the right pieces for the right team just because of how many factors and variables you're dealing with.
All right. So then as your role as an assistant coach and analyst, where do you play into that meshing the team together and getting us to that top caliber that you think we could be or teams in EU could be?
Obviously, the head coach is Broken Shard, and he's kind of described our relationship as I call him micro and I do macro as far as just like basic generalizations of strategy. I help mostly with draft phase and identifying macro problems as far as rotations, movements, prioritization of objectives and things like that. Like I will tell Broken what I see what's wrong with the team, whether it be something as vague as like, wording or composition style. And then Broken's job is to feed that back to the players and pieces that they can understand. So he's like the main focal point and contact point for the players and their understanding and the growth and their learning. And then he also helps more on the mechanics basis because obviously he was a professional player in the LCS.
Okay, so you'll say our warding at 15 minutes is bad, and he'll say, oh, the top laner should be coming down and warding here, and he'll tell the top laner that they should be doing that kind of thing.
I'll say, if they ever go near Baron again, I'm going to murder them. And he'll be like, okay, guys, this is the only circumstance that you're ever able to go near Baron.
Well, they're a Dignitas team now. It's kind of our job to attempt Baron.
I have no idea how that was inherited. But no, they're getting much
name.
better about it.
It's the
yeah.
name. All right. So then what do you think of we've seen, I mean, especially in the playoffs and the last couple weeks, the meta has kind of been completely destroyed. We're seeing Urgot mid, we're seeing Smite TP top, we're seeing TP Ignite top. We've got Hecarim everywhere. We're just seeing a lot of meta. I guess, would you even say this is meta breaking stuff, or is the meta just really opened up to the point where there's so many viable options in a lot of different roles?
I actually think it's very similar. Do you remember when Shyvana and Mundo were really big top lane?
Beginning of season 3.
Yeah. Well, you have to think about what they did. They were all about pushing the lane as hard as possible, and then they'd run underneath them, and they'd go and take a jungle camp, and they would build up their experience lead and their gold lead because they would just get a surplus from the jungle as well as the top lane creeps. And the smite top is effectively the same thing. So yeah, it seems like really, oh, we've got all these multiple these smites. Obviously, this plays into the fact that this is League of Dragons, and everyone is using the fifth dragon as a crutch because they don't understand how to siege a tower. But it's still kind of that core similar idea. Obviously, you're also getting superior itemization off of building Cinder Hulk and the tank stats and the tank items. But I mean, I don't think it's necessarily, oh my God, this is so wacky. Whoever thought that we'd see Smite top? Um,
So it's more
Obviously,
it
yeah.
is just an adaptation, even though I mean it's also that we've seen stuff like Urgot mid, we've seen Cho'Gath mid, we've seen just about every 80 carry getting played. Do you think just as a whole that the balance is getting better so that a lot more options are viable also?
I think that there's too many power picks right now, actually, and I think this gives a bonus too. Like if anyone asks me what side do we want, I'm like we're purple side. And why are we purple side? Because first rotation gets 2 picks, and there's just so
Okay.
many power picks that it's so easy to abuse blue side and just ban out Hecarim, ban out Urgot. Okay, what you got? Gonna pick Gragas? That's totally fine. You can have him.
All right, that's interesting. So then where do you think coming into coming into well, we've got a little while before the summer challenger scene or the summer challenger series, but where do you think Dig.EU is going to stand, looking at both the with Origin gone from EU from the EU challenger scene, and knowing that we did get fourth in the first in the spring series.
We had a rough series last year. Um, I mean, no bullshit. This is probably the best chance that we're gonna get, especially with the new lineup that we have. It's considered fairly strong just because the individual talent that we've been able to retain on the roster is of a very excellent caliber, a very exciting caliber. I haven't gotten a great look at all the other teams. I've seen Code. I've seen some of the other ones that have been playing around in the league draft tournament, but it's so hard to judge where you're really going to stand because so many of these teams will just pop up right before the EUCS qualifiers as far as the ladder grinding. So many rosters will get shuffled. So it's hard to predict. And it sounds weird to say like, oh, it's only a month out. How can you not see these teams coming? But it's very true for the Challenger Series, just because there's not a ton of structure in place, especially when you're just qualifying on the ladder. That teams will come out of nowhere, and you just don't even see them coming yet.
All right. So, do you have any final remarks or shout outs that you'd like to give to our viewers?
Of course, I want to thank my sponsors, or excuse me, the Dignitas sponsors for everything that they do. I mean, obviously, just straight up, working with Dig has been a great experience. I know that Dig has like a bizarre reputation in the Western scene, but I've experienced nothing but awesomeness and a lot of fun-loving guys. So I was very relieved to get involved with Dignitas and work with all of the people, not just on the primary roster, but the support staff and the extending staff.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for watching.